Hello, my name is Hosokawa, Dean of the Faculty of International Career Development. I teach in the Department of English as a global language. Today, I'm delighted to have a special guest from California, Christiana. She first visited福岡女学院in 1997 as a student from Mills College, California. At that time,福岡女学院had a program called the Fukuoka Mills Cultural Exchange Program. Christiana stayed with us for a month, studying Japanese language and culture. Now, 28 years later, she's traveling in Japan with her family and has kindly taken the time to visit our school again. So, Christiana, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel to visit Fukuoka Jogakuin again after 28 years?
I will say it's absolutely I feel like I'm in a dream. It's amazing and incredible to be able to meet with so many people again who feel so quickly like friends. One of my absolute best life memories was the time that I was here at Jogakuin as a student and teacher, and I feel absolutely overwhelmed at the generosity and graciousness of everyone allowing us to come for a visit. It's a life dream, and I just feel overwhelmed and also extremely fortunate to be able to be here. Thank you.
So you studied at Mills College, which is a prestigious women's college. What was your major there?
My major was art history. And I was absolutely inspired by the opportunity to not just come to Jogakuin and but because I was just overwhelmed at how incredible art is when you allow it to sort of speak to you. And so I was in a few classes at Mills that were introductory classes to art history, and it just it captured me. And sort of, it felt like an absolute kind of passion pursuit. I think my parents were hopeful I would have a job after school because art history can be a kind of esoteric thing to study. But it really was an absolute delight to study and a passion of mine for sure.
What did you do after graduating from Mills College?
So after I graduated from Mills, I was delighted to get a job at a museum in Sausalito, California, because I had really wanted to do museum work. Ironically, though, it was not an art museum. It was actually a museum that was devoted to children and sort of design, and almost in some ways, it's called the Bay Area Discovery Museum, and it's nestled right below the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's one of those really special places devoted to the idea that kids could come and get their hands sort of dirty and messy and learn through doing. And so I thought, it's great because I have a museum degree, and so I'll get a job at a museum, but the museum happened to not be an art museum. It happened to be a museum about experiencing all of the beauty of the San Francisco Bay. And so that was my first job after leaving Mills. And then in doing that, I discovered how much I loved the times that I would be working with the education department at our museum and helping guide students through the museum. And that sort of ignited an excitement around the idea of teaching.
Okay, sounds very interesting. So I understand you've been a professional educator for many years.
Yes.
Could you tell us about your work?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. So once I left the role at the Bay Area Discovery Museum, I actually took a role teaching in Oakland, Chinatown, and I was teaching kindergarten. And while I was teaching at that time in California, you could start teaching, especially at a private school that's not funded by the government, without having a full credential. And so I started teaching and then started the credential program, which I was able to do in tandem with my first year of teaching.
I see.
So I would go to school and teach during the day, and then I myself would be studying at night to obtain my credential. And then a California teaching credential usually takes 18 months, so it's about a year and a half of study. And then you put together a large portfolio based on your work if you're an active teacher. Some programs are also designed for students who don't yet have a classroom. And so those programs are designed to be more about theory and methods versus if you have a job, there are also particular certification programs designed around that model of teaching in the day and then going to school yourself.
I see. And also you've been working for collaborative classroom?
Yes. And so after leaving, sort of, as I mentioned, after leaving the role at the Bay Area Discovery Museum, getting a role teaching in Chinatown, I obtained a teaching credential. And then I taught once you have a credential, you can teach in public schools or private schools in California. And so I taught in the public school system in Oakland Unified for some years, and then became really interested in the idea of why some of my students could really easily come to literacy and why others struggled. And so I decided to go back and get a master's in reading and literacy. And so most recently, the work with collaborative classrooms has been work that I've been doing in East Palo Alto, California, which is a community that is very close to a lot of the wealth of Silicon Valley, but supports a community that doesn't have access to the same economic resources that just over the freeway people in Palo Alto have. So East Palo Alto and Palo Alto are like two very different worlds. But the good news is that there are a lot of curricula that have been coming to the surface in California that are supportive of, and Collaborative Classrooms is the sort of publisher of this one methodology of something called the Science of Reading, which is a methodology that really is built on the idea that phonics and that they're a specific skill set and sort of formula will help students be able to decode words and then have greater comprehension.
Is that called SIPS?
It is called SIPS. And I believe SIPS stands for Systemic Instruction of Phonics and Phonemic Awareness.
Phonological awareness.
Phonological awareness.
And sight words.
Perfect. Okay. So that's each of the letters stands for something and is yes. So SIPS has become something that has been adopted in East Palo Alto. In the school district is called Ravenswood. It's also been adopted in Oakland, California. It's also been adopted in Monterey County, which is kind of by Carmel, which a lot of people have heard of as a very wonderful and beautiful place to visit in California, in the Bay Area. And it's really a program designed to also support second language learners or emergent bilingual students who grow up speaking a language that's not English and then come to English once they sort of are introduced to formal schooling.
I see. So in California, there are lots of people speaking Spanish?
There are, absolutely. And it's, I think it's one of the things that's wonderful about California is it really is a very diverse community. And so it is something that also means part of the way that more formalized and larger school systems like public school districts versus a private school need to make sure that we're thinking about the global diversity and languages that are happening in California and therefore serving the students where they are rather than presenting something and hoping that it works for them. So,
so this time you contacted me, and I was very glad because when you were here, you're a brilliant student.
Oh, thank you.
You've been working very hard as a professional teacher and educator.
Thank you.
So I was very glad to hear from you again.
Oh, thank you so much.
Lastly, would you please share your message with the students studying at this women's university?
Absolutely. I think if you are a student at Jogakuin, you are so fortunate to be at a school dedicated to supporting students, inspiring students, and enthusiastically engaging with them, as I know we did in your Japanese class when I was here all those years ago. I think very similar to my experience at Mills, where I had professors who took a vested interest in me and made me and my fellow kind of cohort at Mills feel like we mattered. I know at Jogakuin, one of the things I really felt was quite similar is the way that the professors really know the students. And it feels as if it is, in some ways, like a family, like a community that is built along the idea that women who are here are going to go wonderful places and do wonderful things for the world. And I think that it's a value I noticed when I was here all those years ago that I know is still happening now.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I visited Mills College.
Oh,
yes,
I'm so
many
glad
years
to
ago.
hear that.
Yes, so Christiana, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you and your family have a lovely trip in Japan.
Thank you so much. We've had such a wonderful visit, Hosoka-sensei. Domo arigato.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.